Hello student. So previous class I had talked about the definition of solid waste, which I properly explained about unless the waste is called as an unless and unwanted, and also I have talked about what are the different issues and some issues related with solid waste management, especially in India, and also talked about the different rules about the solid waste management, only few issues. So, now today we will talk about, we will just continue the same discussion about functional elements. This is the one of the very important lecture. The next lectures will be extended based on the today's discussion. So, what are the functional elements? So, this is the entire activities about solid waste management. We started from the generation to the final disposal, which is the entire activities including from the generation to the disposal site, which groups into the 6 functional element, which will the first functional element will be the waste generation. This is one of the important functional element, is very important to know about the different sources of the waste generation. I just gave the one example about household waste. There will be a different sources of the solid waste and different composition, different characterization. This is the very important one to know about how much quantity is getting generated, what kind of characteristics are getting generated. I will take 2 lectures onto the waste generation, because the quantity is also very important, knowing the quantity and volume generated in particular locality or particular city or particular country. So, then after that, once is getting generated at the source, it will get stored at dustbin. Normally in India we talked about there are number of dustbins located by the local authorities or ULBs or corporations very nearby to your house, where the households are the they need to dispose the waste into the those storage area that normally we called in the technically is a on-site storage of the solid waste. And the third functional element is a collection. This is one of the very important functional element or one of the important service or system for the solid waste management, which include, I think I here put it, the 2 type of collection. Was the primary collection. Now under Swachh Bharat mission in 2014, most of the cities have started house to house collection system. So, somebody one of the crew member from the corporations or some from the NGOs, they are coming to your house and collecting the waste, that we normally call it the primary collection, and they primary collection crew will dispose the waste into the dustbin area, and from the dustbin the bigger vehicles that can take 1 ton, 2 ton or 3 tons of waste from those storage area, which will transport or dispose to the disposal area. And the next functional element is a processing and transformation. Now, once the waste is getting collected from the dustbin area, the waste will go for the processing or recycling process. Lot of materials like paper, plastic are recyclable matter that will go for processing and transformation. So, another transformation is nothing but the treatment, because biological waste will go for biological treatment, the dry waste can go for combustion, incineration process or waste to energy process or RDA process. The other functional element which is connected with the collection, that is transfer and transport, because the collection, the waste is collected from the dustbins which is located into the entire city. So, the vehicle, the size of the vehicle will be very small, can take 1 ton, 2 ton of waste, but suppose the disposal site is far away, maybe around 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers from the particular location. So, the cost of hauling of waste so far area is very high cost will be required. So, for that you will be required one transfer stations, where the smaller vehicle will load the waste into the transfer station and again reload it onto the bigger vehicle. This bigger vehicle can take 10 tons or 50 tons of waste, and it will go to the finally to the disposal site, where the entire waste is getting disposed of. So, if you see the entire functional element is linked together, linked to each and every functional element. So, that is what this course called as a solid waste management course is not only the, like if you take about in environmental engineering, we talked about water treatment, we talked about wastewater treatment, also we talked about air pollution or air treatment process, but we never talked about the solid waste treatment, because treatment known about only the processing and transformation. But for this treatment you required very special kind of collection system, you will be required special kind of, and for that collection you need to know the proper generation. So, is all the functional elements are related together, it is not only the treatment process. So, it required the entire management. So, if you want to go for treatment, you need to know the, or need to provide the proper collection system also for such kind of waste. So, what I will do now, I will go for one by one functional element. I will just give the brief idea about the each functional element. So, first we will start from the waste generation. Now, I put it some of the photographs to understand what kind of waste is getting generated. Now, this functional element is very important functional element to know about the different type of waste or type of waste generated, and also the what are the different sources. So, the one photograph is showing the vegetable waste, the biological waste. So, obviously, these kind of waste, the collection system will be different for such kind of waste, because this waste is normally biodegradable waste. So, once it will get stored for longer period, it will produce odor, it will produce lot of leachate. So, lot of issue will be created from such kind of waste. So, should have the proper collection system and should provide it for the biological treatment process. Like remaining the other photograph is showing lot of plastic and dry matter, which is easily recyclable matter and which could be easily possible to get recycled. Also these kind of waste is able to produce lot of energy, or we can have the proper incineration or waste to energy plant. So, in these functional element we will talk about not only the different sources, different composition, also need to know the different characteristics of the waste, because the same waste once it will go for the transformation process or treatment process, you need to know the lot of physical, chemical and biological different characteristics. So, based on this characteristic we can propose the different kind of treatment process before it is going to the disposal area, and also need to know the total quantity production, and to design the disposal site or landfill site you also need to know the how much ever the volume of waste is getting generated. So, once you know the proper generation of the waste, we will go for the waste handling and storage, that on-site storage. So, we will have this kind of container, might in your city also, in your urban locality also you found similar kind of photographs, where the corporation is provided such kind of containers. Normally these containers or dustbins called as a haul container. Why haul container? Because the entire container is getting hauled into the onto the vehicle along with the waste. This is the one kind of storage, on-site storage. Other kind of storage is stationary container, where containers are not getting hauled off, but only the waste is getting hauled off into the vehicle. So, here the permanent kind of location, so haul container locations could be a flexible locations. Time to time we can reallocate the positions of the such kind of containers. But most of the cases, if you see in the India, we have the stationary kind of containers. But now because lot of money has putting, lot of fund also is available with the corporation. So, now corporation also, because the collection system is more cheaper, more easy if you have the stationary container system, which I will talk about talk onto the when we go for the on-site storage, why it is very cheaper process or very economical process. So, now time to time we converted the dustbins like this mechanical dustbin stationary. Now, in this case waste is getting hauled off, but the entire reloading of the waste from the dustbin is mechanical one. So, because of that the time required for stationary containers also is less and more economical because of having the mechanical collection system. Now, next that the primary collection, it includes the gathering of solid waste and recycled matter from the source. So, here I put it two kind of photograph where we have two type of collection system. Now, if you see this kind of house to house collection system in under Swachh Bharat mission which has been started. So, this is a these are the collection services. Somewhere some of the cities you will find the house to house collection system, somewhere you will find the where households are the responsible to dispose the waste in some nearby localities, that is a primary collection. So, here in this function element we will have 2 to 3 lectures where we will talk about the different collection services, what are the important issues about this when you finalize any collection services. Now, the secondary collection we will have two type of collection system. When you go for the stationary container system, we will normally find this kind of collection system normally by the dumper vehicles. And in India, in earlier I think when we started the waste collection is mostly from the stationary container system, because it was very cheaper process. So, waste handling also from the dumper kind of vehicle, but now because the house to house collection have been started and our collection system is more mechanical way now. So, this kind of collection container hauling also have been started. These kind of facility is very good, especially the container hauling facilities are very beneficial for where the waste generation is very large, the large quantity and large size of waste is getting produced of. So, once the entire waste is getting collected, we will go for processing and transformation of solid waste. This is one of the most important functional element in solid waste management, where India or most of the developing countries are need to be more work onto these functional element. Now, here I put it two kind of photographs, where one photograph is showing that because the waste if you see our waste characterization, we produce lot of dry matters, and the dry matters is mostly are the paper, plastic, rubber, leather, metal and glass. These all kind of dry matters are easily recyclable, easily we can recycle, but only the problem is that it has to be segregated properly. Without that is very difficult to get recycle, or except from glass and metal, this entire like paper, plastic, rubber, leather highly combustible one. So, when you plan for waste to energy plant, need to understand the proper what kind of waste is getting segregated and where. Now, what is happening currently in India, where entire waste is coming to the one disposal area, and now there we are planning for the segregation one, was very difficult, because any location if there are 500 to 1000 tons of waste is coming, is very difficult to segregate once it will mixed with the wet waste. So, for wet waste, if it is getting segregated very easily, we can easily go for biological treatment. I put it one photograph which showing the windrow composting facility. Now, what is happening in India, because we do not have proper segregation at the source. So, what entire mixed waste is coming to the treatment facilities or recycling and transfer facility. So, what we find, we had lot of windrow composting plants in India, but was very difficult to run such kind of composting plants. We failed, were not able to produce more amount of or very good quality of compost, and which was not very sellable also, such kind of compost. And because of that, I think most of our compost plant have been filled up and was not able to get sustainable for the longer period, because the quality was very poor. And you know, in India the farmers are getting lot of chemical fertilizer very easily in the cheaper cost with the high nutrient value, but the production of very good quality or high quality compost is also very difficult once such kind of recycling plants are getting the mixed waste. So, what has been finalized under the Swachh Bharat mission in 2014, the waste has to be segregated at the source. So, once it is getting segregated at one location, like at household level, there itself we have to finalize the proper collection system. So, your dry waste is getting segregated specially, and which is going to the recycling facility, and the wet waste is getting separately getting collected and going for the composting plant. So, likewise, so in this particular functional element, I will have 6 to 7 lecture or where I will talk about first I will talk about the dry waste, because India also now discussing about waste to energy. In 90s, when India thought about waste to energy plant, none of the waste to energy plant was very successfully in those days, because the waste, the way we are producing waste does not have the large amount of heating value or calorific value, which was not able to get easily combustible. So, the power production also was very difficult from such kind of mixed waste. But now, because our commercialization is increasing, more commercial facilities and more amount of dry waste is added into the with the time in India. So now, because the cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata or mega cities are producing more than 2000, 3000 or 4000 metric tons waste per day, and just to having the compost facility is very difficult to depend onto the only composting facility. Obviously, the Indian waste is having more amount of wet waste, 50 to 60% wet waste is there. We can have the composting facility, we can produce the good quality compost once it is getting segregated, but we need to also talk about the recycling or waste to energy or RDF plants. In earlier days, I think lot of RDF plants has been come up in India, but the acceptability of such kind of waste for as an RDF plant or recycling material is also not that acceptable one. So, let us see here, I will talk about waste to energy for the dry waste, and I will talk about the biological treatment for the wet waste as the segregated way, and I will give some example about mixed waste also, how best we can go for treatment of the mixed waste having the composting facilities. So, the next functional element is transfer and transport, which I already talked about while discussing about the flow chart, because now the cities are growing and the size of the city also is very increasing. So, now the location of the disposal site also is far away now. So, the city like Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Bangalore, such cities are located, the disposal area has to be located 40 kilometer away. So, now the current collection system having the smaller vehicle which can take 1 ton, 2 ton of waste is not that economical, because for once you are finalizing for haul container system, where from each location the vehicle has to run from the one dustbin location to the disposal site for 40 kilometers. It is a very costly process. So, what was the idea about that? If you reallocate few transfer stations inside the city or some of the outskirts of the city, where this smaller vehicle will collect the waste from the dustbins area and will get disposed into the transfer stations. Having these kind of collection, we can have the from the smaller vehicle, even the auto tippers which can take 200, 300 or 500 kg of waste which are collecting from the household area, that also can be disposed into the transfer station, and from this transfer station the smaller vehicle will unload the waste into the bigger container, and with this bigger container the waste is getting transported into the disposal area or treatment facility. Now, in India also, where we are talking about more kind of transfer stations, and under Swachh Bharat mission and 2016 solid waste management rule also is proposed, the cities in Indian cities can have the transfer station, where because our 90% of cost is for the collection system only. So, how best will be able to collect the waste, based on that we can have the proper treatment facility and proper disposal facility. And there are different ways of waste collection, could be of the motor transport, could have the rail transport. Some of the countries have rail transport where waste is getting transported to the 200 kilometer, 300 kilometer. Currently India do not have such kind of collection system, but also in future when any city are thinking about to relocate the disposal area or treatment facility far away, maybe 200 kilometer, 300 kilometer, we can have the rail transport. Also the water transport, some of the countries are do not have proper the large area of land available, and their landfill also or treatment facility also is relocated in some other part of the sea. So, has to be transported from the water transport. Now, because the collection is most important functional element. So, the hydraulic transport also or hydraulic collection system also have been started, which I already talked about. Stationary container system, earlier the entire collection system was manual, but now in India using lot of different kind of vehicle where we required the hydraulic system and can collect the large amount of waste through such kind of vehicle. Now, these another pneumatic collection system, but currently do not have in India pneumatic or refuse collection system, but in future some of the localities we can have such kind of collection system. Now, this is the final one. So, where waste is getting in the open dump yard. So, most of our cities have the such kind of dump yards. Normally, it is very difficult to call them as a landfill, and normally I talked about the different functional element and I was talking about more onto the collection, and most of the corporation do not have proper financial support, and they mostly targeted how best they will be able to collect waste from the city. So, most of the fund, maybe I can say that 80 to 90% of fund is allocated only for the collection facilities. And to have the proper treatment facility, it required proper technology. We have the technology, but without having the proper segregated collection system, such kind of treatment facility operation is very difficult. We tried lot of compost plant from last 20-30 years, where we installed number of compost plant, but not a the current today also we can't say the not a single compost plant are running very well or getting sustainable for 10 years or 15 years, because our collection still we believe that our collection system in the mixed way basis. But now is good, under Swachh Bharat mission it was proposed that the waste has to be segregated at source or at household area, and this segregated waste has to be collected very well and get it proper treated, and then only it should go for the disposal site. Now, I think if you visit the most of the city, we have the dump site in such cases, but now the many cities have started the biomining of such disposal sites. Recently very successful biomining study has been done in Indore, which became one of the cleanest city, and one city also I remember that in Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu, they have also started the biomining, and now lot of projects are getting accepted for the biomining of such kind of dumping area. Now, because of such kind of disposal system only, because lot of biological waste also added into such kind of waste. So, these biological waste will get degraded. So, because of degradation and because of precipitation, rainfall, large amount of leachate is getting produced of, and these leachate once it is going to the any surface wetland, or once this leachate is going to the groundwater, it is very difficult to treat such kind of water sources, and we believe that the groundwater is one of the purest water is available with that. So, once this leachate is enter into the groundwater, it is very difficult to treat such kind of pollution in the groundwater. So, normally we propose these kind of sanitary landfill. So, once we have the proper segregation in sanitary landfill, the waste is getting disposed of, and there are two major issues with the landfill area. One is the leachate production, other is the polluted gas production. So, leachate is getting properly collected, having the clay liner in the bottom, and leachate is getting collected and treated properly. That is one good facility. And for the whatever gas is producing, so majorly because the entire waste is under the anaerobic condition. So, the anaerobic condition, obviously the major gases are carbon dioxide and methane. This methane also can able to produce the electricity or power from this kind of having the sanitary landfill. And if you see the another photograph, once you go for proper sanitary landfill and proper lining system, so we will not see the solid waste disposal area. Once you once you close the entire dustbin, will cover with the soil, will look, this landfill also will look like of proper hill area. So, this is all about the functional element of solid waste management. From the next lectures, we will talk about the one by one functional element. We will start from the waste generation, followed by storage, collection, processing, treatment, transformation, transport and finally disposable. Thank you.